What up, everybody? It's your host, Serpunk, coming at you live with another episode of Web3 Weekly Alpha, where we cover the digital renaissance. Everything related to crypto, NFTs, digital art, music on the blockchain, all the fun things and crazy news and updates that happen in crypto each week. So let's go ahead. Wild week. Can't wait to get into it with you guys. Let's go ahead and just jump right in and start covering our first segment, the markets, where we are going to go over what happened in the NFT space. For my trading degens, or if you want to just stay up with the trends, let's jump right in. All right, so first, cover ETH and Bitcoin just to see where we are in the short-term and medium-term trend. We did fail this breakout, where it kind of looked like last week we had potential, but it kind of came back into that box, and it looks like we have chop season moving forward. As you can see, Ethereum here back in that base. Same thing with Bitcoin. Looked like we could go. We're back inside of this small uptrending little chop channel. So nothing really exciting, and just kind of seeing where it goes from here. My main goal moving forward is just to not get chopped up. All right, let's move into some NFT charts. We know with the whole blur situation and the airdrop farming, there hasn't really been too much price action in either direction. So let's jump in and just take a look at some charts and see where we're at. So CloneX here, owned by Nike, it's just really not looking good. You can see that this kind of 6 ETH level was support. It is now turned into resistance. And it is possible that we can go lower here. As you can see, huge sell volume, and rejected that move to try to reclaim that support. Bored Ape Yacht Club, really important one to watch, as this is the leader of the space, as well as Mutant Apes. We know what happened with this. We're going to go into some depth with exactly what happened, and the Blur airdrop farmers really in trouble this week. So, but right now, it did kind of get saved here at that important support level. But again, it doesn't look that good, especially in the short term. So nothing to really get you excited there. Same with Mutants. There's really nothing too exciting happening here. It keeps getting propped up, slam. So right now, I'm more on the cautious side with things. Azuki, which is one of the blue chips that kind of rose out of this recent cycle, it is one of the better looking blue chips here. It's still holding up in this little channel after coming out of this little base area. Hasn't been able to break out of that 15 mark. So let's see. Right now, as long as it stays in that channel, we're just kind of getting chopped up. Pudgy Penguins, you had this big base breakout, forming another small base between this 5 and 6 ETH area. Is one of the stronger up and coming potential blue chip projects. Let's just see where it goes there. Nothing too much right now. Onward Force. So this one had a huge run up, and we were wondering why. We found out this week, and we'll be getting into the details, but they got bought out by a crypto group, and I mean, the market always knows. So somebody knew inside information, obviously. But it does look to see like it's by the rumor sell the news event, so we'll be going into that. Captains broke out of that little 4 ETH mark, showing a little bit of strength this week. Valhalla also tried to break out, but as you can see, it's just not really holding. There's not too much demand that is sticking. So just keep that in mind when you're buying NFTs this week or you're trading. Doodles. So we know last week, Pranksy, who was a Doodles whale, sold a bunch of his Doodles off. But it's similar to CloneX, the support became resistance, and the trend is still down. There's no telling where this is going to stop. Same thing with Moonbirds. Moonbirds just broke support on massive volume, record volume since it actually minted. So these are just not positive signs, especially from the top projects in the entire space. Breaking new lows, it's just not exciting or convincing price action for the whole broader market. Killer Bears, which has been a leader in this recent cycle, Continues to hold up in this uptrend. But again, just because of all the action, the other leader projects, I'm not really getting too excited over everything. Wrecked Guy just getting kind of in that chop zone. Kampai Pandas, which has been a leader this cycle as well. As you can see, it broke out of this level here and it's just been on an uptrend ever since. But it kind of looks like we got a little bit extended. We're breaking this trend line here and kind of sold off heavy into that 2 ETH, above that 2 ETH mark. So I think it needs to cool down, losing a little bit of steam, and kind of makes sense with everything else that's going on. Checks has been insane the last couple of weeks with Jack Butcher, even though it's extremely extended. And on the daily, it's easier to see. You could see it looks like it's a double top, where it just kind of ran up into that 2.6-ish mark, rejected, back up there, rejected again. Let's see if it could hold. On the weekly, it doesn't look as bad, but on the daily, if it breaks below this 1.5 and gets back here, it's just very extended. I mean, how much more can these go in the short term? I don't know. I'm not betting against Jack Butcher, but the chart is saying it's a bit extended from the technical side of things. O'Peppin, which is another Jack Butcher project, which was rumored to become a profile pick from one of his tweets last week, it got sold off heavy. As you can see, this large candle just closed extremely weak and just couldn't stay above that 1 ETH mark. So again, with these two, they are very extended. Be careful. Somebody in my group chat bought the top and said they're leaving NFTs forever. I don't blame him. Don't chase things when they're this high, especially when you don't have a reason to be holding them. Sappy Seals, as you can see, not much going on here as well. Just kind of sideways action after a failed breakout. All right. Shout out to Jumpman, where he says, tracking toward the largest day of cumulative realized loss since we all tax loss harvested on the last day of last year, December 31st. So just been a really rough week. And this data here shows it perfectly, where just losses across the board this week, mainly coming from your Bored Ape Yacht Club ecosystem, where we're going to go into the details here in just a minute. But yeah, just not good times right now for NFT peeps. All right, shout out to Mondo and OSF. These guys unloaded, I believe, around 70 apes all at once, instantly to the NFT market. And the price did not even budge, thanks to Blur's incentives and Blur's liquidity pools. We're going to jump into this. Let's first read Mando's thoughts as to why, from holding these apes from 2021 to now, they decided to dump their whole bag. Legendary trade. Shout out to these chads. After a lot of thinking, today we decided to utilize current NFT liquidity and take profits on our apes and our mutants. We still own a lot of Yuga assets and continue to be bullish on what they are building. This team changed our lives. We paid full royalties. Shout out to them. We will be back. This was on the 21st. And then some advice from these guys who are previous bond traders. These guys know what they're doing. And he says, take liquidity when it is plentiful, deploy it when it is sparse. And there is record level liquidity in the NFT market right now due to Blur's platform, which makes it extremely, it's incentivizing traders to put bids into NFT projects, because that raises their Blur token airdrop, which they'll be airdropping 300 million worth again at the end of the season 2 airdrop. So traders out there farming again, and they get higher farm rewards for the higher bid they put on NFT floors. And that's exactly what is driving all of this liquidity. And Mando and OSF thought, this is a special time. We're going to take that. Okay, this is a tweet from OSF back in December 2nd, 2021. It's a screenshot of the OSF and Mando speaking to each other, and looks like on WhatsApp. And they say here, I just bought 38 Bored Apes at 4 ETH average. So Mando accumulates 38 apes. He ends up going further and buying up to 69 apes. And this is part of their journey of holding since then, having that conviction in Bored Apes, receiving all the airdrops that made Bored Apes very rich, and then officially selling their entire bag. So you can see here where I say, show me on the chart where $9 million worth of Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs was sold. As you can see, the price did not even budge. They sold it right here. But this ends up being a delayed reaction. All right, shout out to NFT Statistics. Follow this man, watch his show. He is a huge blessing to the space with his statistics, and he's going to share a lot of the things that happened this week, and I'm going to be talking about. So he says, how were Mando and OSF able to sell 72 apes and the Bored Ape Yacht Club floor not even budge? The answer is none other than your NFT whale, Machi Big Brother, who is airdrop farming like crazy on Blur right now. In the last 24 hours, he bought 72 apes, and he only sold 3. And he knows not to crash the floor. In fact, he just bought more. And he is now net long $6.4 million worth of NFTs. This, if you don't know Machi Big Brother, this is him. And here is a chart of Machi Big Brother's transactions this week. The beautiful thing about the blockchain is if we know your wallet address, we can track your transactions. So as you can see here, this is the day that OSF and Mando dumped their apes, and the day that Machi Big Brother, because he was farming Bored Apes on Blur for the rewards, ended up holding that entire bag. So they dumped into Machi Big Brother's airdrop farming bids. As you can see, he pretty much owned only that, a little bit of mutant apes, but that's really it. And shout out to NFT Statistics again, where he said, it doesn't seem like Machi Big Brother had any regrets of having bids hit with 72 Bored Ape Yacht Clubs yesterday. Since then, he's bought more NFTs. 9,637 ETH worth spent on NFTs. He's now net long 6,000 ETH. And this is a chart of Machi Big Brother's wallet and what he owns in terms of Ethereum. So as you can see, this is the day he ended up buying OSF and Mando's bag of Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. And since then, he just continued to buy NFTs and just was net long. Some people were saying he had to go into BendDAO, which is an NFT lending protocol, and take some of his NFTs out of there and provide liquidity into Blur liquidity pools, because of just being overextended. Franklin, which is another whale and big trader in space that is taking advantage of the Blur airdrop farming, he did 2,300 trades this week on Blur. That's parabolic for the amount of trades he does on average. And you can see here, after that first airdrop completed and they announced their second season, which is going to be a similar amount, he just took it up to another notch there. And it wasn't just Machi Big Brother and Franklin that took it to another notch. Flippers on Blur, in terms of unique flippers, just went nuts. The number of wallets flipping NFTs on Blur has gone up 7x thanks to NFT Statistics. Flippers define as a wallet which buys and sells the NFT in one day. So this just became a flippers market, purely speculative, thanks to Blur. Shout out to Liam, where he points out, this is a critical point of the Blur airdrop farming, in my opinion. Many top traders have their full Blur balance allocated across multiple pools. Meaning, if Machi Big Brother dumps 70 Bored Ape Yacht Clubs that he just got dumped on, it'll remove significant bid depth from other collections like Mutant Ape Yacht Club and Azuki. Farmers will need to hodl the NFTs and add new ETH to keep bidding. It's a big deal, right? Because if you see a bunch of bids on a certain NFT floor and you're bidding based off of those numbers, and then they end up getting their bids accepted on a different project, those bids get removed, you get raised to the top, and you might end up buying some NFTs that you weren't thinking you were. Shout out to Cyrus, great NFT trader on Twitter. He points out the beginning of the liquidation process for Bored Apes that we talked about earlier, where it simply was delayed. Bored Ape Yacht Club Blur farmers are capitulating, accepting bids under 60 ETH a few days after absorbing a bunch of them for 78 ETH from Mando and OSF. All right, so Machi Big Brother was able to delay the pain a little bit, but not for long. He is beginning to dump way under what he bought them for. Machi Big Brother was long about 7,500 ETH net NFTs. This has changed. As you can see, Machi Big Brother's ETH in terms of NFTs long continues to dump them. And this is what the Bored Ape Yacht Club chart looked like as he continued to sell those Bored Apes from Macho and from Mondo and OSF. Just complete liquidations here. Blur airdrop farmers beginning to capitulate. They weren't ready for that Machi Big Brother dump, and the floor was just went straight from above 70 ETH to under 60 ETH, and you can see the huge sell volume. This is a very ugly looking chart at this point. This is what it looks like on a shorter term time frame on the 1 hour. This is what pure panic looks like, and you can see the Pico bottom volume where people are just throwing in the towel on the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs. And if you had balls of steel, this might have been a good opportunity for you to buy the dip and catch a falling knife, which I don't recommend unless you know what the hell you're doing. It did end up being a great trade if you had the balls, and it went from below 60 ETH to over an 8 ETH profit if you would have nailed this thing perfectly, which is practically almost impossible. But even if you caught some of this move, hell of a trade in just a couple days based on the panic from these Blur airdrop farmers capitulating. All right, and there are some people who took advantage of the short when they were understanding the situation prior to the downfall. And there are websites like NFT Perp and others where you can go short these potential plays for the first time. So there's that. And this is what it looks like, meme version, what OSF and Mando did to Machi Big Brother as they just dumped instantly those 72 Bored Apes. And he was just not ready for that. All right. People were getting extra worried because BendDAO, which again is a lending protocol for NFTs, I'll just say what William here says. Ben's Oracle hasn't updated yet, but when it does, it looks like 100 apes are going to be liquidatable. And so as you can see here on the chart, we did get to that around 58 ETH mark, which as you can see, NFT statistics says the floor has to stay above this mark. If not, a bunch of these loans are going to get triggered and going to get liquidated. Luckily, as you can see, it didn't happen. We held that and we bounced. It couldn't have gotten real ugly after that, but luckily it did not happen and we got the bounce. Shout out to Mooncat where he makes a good point. The Blur token going down under 85 cents will only make this worse. And the reason is because the lower Blur goes, the less people are going to expect to make off of their Blur airdrop farming rewards. And people don't think about the potential that the platform has. They just look at the monetary aspect to sell right away. This is what Blur looks like. It has been coming down over the last week. People get more excited about Blur airdrop farming and placing bids when the price is higher because the reward's higher. As this goes lower, there may be less incentivization to continue to provide that liquidity, and things potentially could get worse. Keep that in mind. Mando and OSF, shout out to Cyrus where he points out watching the Bored Ape Yacht Club floor nuke after dumping their 8-figure bag at the Pico local top, not the absolute top, with absolutely zero slippage and executing one of the best trades of all time. These guys are legends for this. I mean, let's get real. It wasn't the perfect trade. Bored Ape Yacht Clubs at the peak was over about 400,000 for one Bored Ape. They're now around 100,000, but still holding from 2021, receiving all the airdrops, and then selling at the local Pico top right now with all this liquidity was just a really smart move. Shout out to those Chads. All right, enough of that. Let's go in to another liquidation that is happening. We are not, it is not something completely new in crypto for things to be being liquidated, especially in the last year. And this one is the Starry Night liquidation, where 3 Arrows Capital, which was run by Sun Tzu and Kyle, which had the biggest crypto fund in the world, which they completely over-levered and got liquidated. Anyways, their NFT portfolio is being officially liquidated within the next month, and a bunch of NFT grails are going to be hitting the market. All right, shout out the NFT statistics again, where he says 3 hours capital liquidation will bring auction nearly 2 times the amount of ringers, fidendas, autoglyphs, and archetypes, which are considered grail generative NFT art projects, are hitting the market. And it's a lot of supply relative to the amount of NFTs in these collections. They're relatively illiquid NFTs, as they're very expensive. There's not much of them, and not much people bidding on them as well. So as you can see here, it's going to begin within the next month. About 274 NFTs are getting liquidated, and some of these will not be getting sold right away. But as you can see, this has been the sales volume in these projects within the last 3 months. So this amount of NFTs hitting the market is a lot relative to their on average transactions. So let's take a look at, let's anticipate what's going to happen with that over the next month. Again, NFT statistics here, where he says, and this is one of my favorite statistics that I've ever seen him post. I was looking for this kind of data prior, and I'm so glad he finally posted it. I think we should really pay attention to what this post says. Despite all of the volume happening, the majority of NFTs in each collection are just sitting in wallets. 90% of Moonbirds, Muon Ape Yacht Club, Cool Cat, MeBits, CloneX NFTs have not traded once this year, 2023. I know we're only 2 months in, but it's still an important number in my opinion. 93% of Bored Ape Yacht Club have not traded, and this is huge. 97% of pucks haven't traded. So what this tells me is that the huge selling that we had across the board in NFTs last year, most of the weak hands are out. The people holding, they're just holding, either because they want to be a part of the community or because they're just not willing to take a loss here, and they're just saying, either it comes back or I'm holding to zero. We know crypto people are known to do that. So, but what is interesting is that these floors are volatile and they're still moving a lot. So it's moving based on just the other 10 or 7 or 3% of the supply is really moving this price action, which is very interesting to me. But again, a lot of these people are just holding and they're just sitting in wallets. And that goes to show you something interesting about the NFT market, where maybe people are more willing to hold than maybe something like fungible tokens, regular crypto tokens, where people may not have that attachment. All right, let's move on into the next segment, the largest sales of the week. All right, Eric, shout out to him. Crazy trade. He says, fuck it, we ball. Pudgy Penguins. He says he traded his Grail Cheetah 4T for 10 rare Pudgies and a little Pudgy Ice Crown. So a lot of controversy between this trade. Nobody really knows who came out on top. There's a lot of rare Pudgies in here that have a high NFT floor price right now. So very interesting trade. He's very bullish the Pudgies. Shout out to Loopify, where he says $650,000 sale on this Fidenza. This is a Grail generative art project, which we talked about earlier. Mooncat. All right, this was a big deal for Mooncat, as he's always wanted a crypto punk. Thanks to the Blur airdrop, which he got a fat bag of, he was able to finally grab a crypto punk. And he spent almost $500,000 on this CryptoPunk right here. Shout out to him. Shout out to Mooncat, where he also points out that a 33 ETH sale on ByteGans was just made. There was only 2 one-of-ones in the entire AI generative art NFT project, and this was one of them, and it was sold for 33 ETH. Okay. We just covered all the big sales. Let's go over a large sell where it was on the loss side of things. So he says, thought you were having a bad day? Someone just sold 16 Moonbirds, and this was just after Proof, which is part of the Moonbirds, brand, or the company behind Moonbirds, which we'll be going into in detail in the news section. Right after they made the announcement that they would be canceling the Proof conference this year, Somebody sold 16 Moonbirds for a loss of 596 ETH. They still have a few rares that cost them 850 ETH. And at that current price, that's a total loss of 1350 ETH or $3.6 million in USD. Crazy. Some people are starting to capitulate at very large numbers. Moving on into the Blur airdrop and its mechanics. I think it's important to study how they executed their airdrop. A lot of protocols can learn on how to do this better. And I think they just put on a masterclass. Whatever your opinion may be on Blur, I think their airdrop is worth studying. Jump right in. All right, so Blur, as I told you, they airdropped money to us last week. They're starting season 2. It's going to be $300 million worth again, and will be distributed to the community. But they announced something new, which they always do. Users with 100% loyalty had the highest chance of getting rare packages, right? Which are just these virtual boxes that give you airdrops based on rarities. So how do you get 100% loyalty? That's the question. So very interesting move here by Blur. As you can see, there is a leaderboard 24 hours a day on the Blur website where it tells you the top wallets with the most points and 100% loyalty. So as you can see, a lot of the farmers, a lot of the large whales that are farming are at 100% loyalty. But now they made it extremely easy. All you have to do is when you post a listing on their website, you're selling an NFT, you can sell it in any marketplace all via their platform, all at once. But if you hit the max loyalty button, it removes you from all the other marketplaces, and now you're only selling on Blur. And that's exactly what they want. Why? Because they want the most liquidity and they want the best prices and they want everybody to go there, right? So, and if you do this, I'll just say, use their new maximum loyalty button to remove your third-party listings, and you get 100%. You get your score to 100% in a single transaction, and this provides you more points for the airdrop. And of course, degens are going to follow. But the funny thing about this is, shout out to NFC Statistics, where he says, the irony is that the nuke all OpenSea listings, the loyalty button, is actually a Seaport function. Seaport is code that OpenSea released not too long ago for any marketplace to source NFT listings. Of course, OpenSea was the largest marketplace in the world, so they had a majority of the listings. They open sourced this function, and Blur is using this open source code and using it against OpenSea. Seaport is a decentralized platform OpenSea created and moved to, which also made it impossible to protect loyalties. Their most Web3 move ever, which is open sourcing and being an open protocol, crushed them in this Web3 warfare between OpenSea and Blur. You try to be Web3, your competition comes, uses that against you. Not good. Shout out to Food Bar. There's been a lot of controversy between good and bad for Blur's platform. I think to stay more neutral. I think this was bound to happen. But let's see what let's see what Food Bar has to say, as I think he always has some good takes. Blur activity is higher than it would be without token incentives, is what the NFT community is saying. And he says, yeah, that's the point. I'm sorry you are used to mindless airdrop incentive that give one-time goodwill and don't drive lasting activity to the platform. They are succeeding what you failed. Get good. All right. Again, Blur airdrop was a masterclass. Study it. As you can see here, I put right here the Blur incentivizing airdrop. Number one, the beautiful thing about airdrops is you can find your target market, right? So they said if you sold NFTs within the last year or 6 months, I don't remember exactly, connect your wallet and you'll be potentially rewarded with some Blur tokens as an airdrop, right? So immediately they find their target market, which is what airdrops are good for. Then they recruit people to their platform. Then they incentivize people to list on their platform. And then they incentivize the liquidity pools, which then keeps the lowest price on their platform. And they do this all in the perfect chronological order based on what they want their users to do at the time. And what ends up being the outcome? Well, Blur has the most liquidity out of any NFT market. The cheapest prices are on Blur, has the fastest execution, and you get paid to use the platform, right? So I also said here, every token given was incentivized for users to do exactly what the Blur team wanted in their preferred order. These guys incentivized us perfectly to do what they wanted, and that is really how airdrops should be used, right? If you're using airdrops and your platform or your product sucks, then it's a large advertising cost that's not going to stick. But if you're using an airdrop like Blur did and you have a good quality product, it's an incredible way to market and get new users into your funnel. All right, if you did not know, the founder of Blur, I mean, it's hard to compete when you have a resume like this. This is Pac-Man, the founder of Blur, where he says, before I started Blur, I dropped out of high school and I went through the Y Combinator at 17 years old, studied math, computer science at MIT. He received the Peter Thiel Fellowship to leave MIT and start a company called Namebase, and then he sold Namebase and Namecheap, and now he started Blur. So this guy is just a gigabrain. He's absolutely killing it. He's super young. I think he's younger than I am. And there's an incredible podcast with him on Blockworks. Highly recommend you listen to it, where he lays out the strategy, his thoughts on the market, and how they just been killing it. All right, let's move into the NFT news. Ton of news to go over this week. Some big news. Spotify is getting into the Web3 game and starting off with tokenization of music and playlists. Two projects that were selected to be involved in the pilot was Overlord and Kingship. Overlord is an NFT project that wants to be a gaming company and a fashion company. And then Kingship is a virtual band of Bored Apes signed by Universal Music Group. And you can see here, it's a special curated playlist exclusively for Kingship NFT holders, right? So you might say, how does this work? Well, this is a infographic by Spotify where you can see that welcome to Spotify's token-enabled pilot. We are happy you're here. This is only for Android users so far. So how would this work? You would go to the page of the NFT project. You would click on play, connect your Web3 crypto wallet, and then you would get access to a token-gated playlist, music, whatever it may be, right? So this is very interesting. I've been waiting to see when Web3 was going to hit music. Spotify is obviously the king of streaming, and it just makes sense, right? For musicians, creators to be able to tokenize certain drops for certain supporters that either bought their NFT, that listened to them to most of their music that year. Creators can provide a more tailored experience to their super fans, and this is where the world is heading. Love to see Spotify entering the Web3 space. World Wide Web, shout out to them as they just raised $10 million from Pantera Capital for their metaverse gaming project here. NFT Statistics points out that Snoop Dogg is selling action figures of his actual Bored Ape, and it's only going to cost you $225. Would I probably buy it? Probably. I'm an NFT nerd, but moving on here. So we talked about the Yuga key for the person who came number one in Dookie Dash. So it's official. The UpDAO, which is the DAO from the Pixel Vault ecosystem, has officially made a 690 ETH bid on that golden key, which is an NFT. There's only one of them. As you can see here, this is a screenshot from the bid on OpenSea, $1,143,000. The winner, who is a professional Fortnite streamer, Mangral, says, double it and I'll accept. The guy's not taking a low bid offer of $1 million. Man, I don't know if he's ever going to get a larger bid than this. I think he's kind of crazy for not accepting, but hey, this guy's probably got money, he doesn't care. And this is an AI artwork that I made that resembled the situation, the $1 Million Dash. All right, some people from Pixel Vault are not happy with how the DAO is utilizing the DAO's treasury, $1 million, as they sold a bunch of NFTs. As you can see here, I spent tens of thousands of dollars on comics, down tokens, planets, and you guys go ahead and use that money, put it into the DAO, and then offer $1 million of it to buy another project's item when you say you have all these things that you're building. So controversy there, and I think it's fairly valid. Moving on to Marilyn Monroe, who is dropping an NFT project. Well, not her, whoever's handling her IP and her estate. It's in collaboration with ZBlocksMint. So it's going to be a Marilyn Monroe generative art drop. At first, it wasn't really selling, and then it ended up selling out, and now has a 1.35 ETH floor. So things changed rapidly. Moving on to the Starbucks Odyssey drop. So what was interesting, we were all waiting for Starbucks to officially drop their Web3 loyalty program. They're the largest retailer in the world to first begin getting into Web3. Let's get a little bit into details here of what's happening, because I think other brands are really going to start utilizing this. And it's just crazy to me that a large brand like Starbucks is issuing NFTs for their loyalty customers, and there's a secondary market for it now, right? So the Starbucks Odyssey mechanics involve activities called journeys. This features interactive challenges of different difficulty levels. It aims to encourage new types of customer brand engagement. So you complete a journey, you get a journey stamp, you can trade it on the marketplace, and then you get a collector score with get you perks, right? No crypto experience is required. The stamps can be sold or purchased through a marketplace called Nifty Gateway. And this is not your own crypto wallet. It stays on the website. So they custody the NFTs for you and the wallet. It's like an eBay, right, site, integrating payments into it, make it easier for people who are not familiar with Web3, which I think is the way. And as you can see, these are 4 journey tokens or stamps, that they've already released. You can see the amount that are holding these stamps. 30,000 are holding doing good journey, 5,000 for each of the other ones, $74, $80. This one's going up. The holiday cheer edition is going up for $2,000 right now is the floor price. The highest offer right now is $1,000. So kind of crazy people are spending this much on Starbucks NFTs, and I'm sure they're just getting started. But NFTs are just incredible marketing tools and tools to really engage with your customers, fans, whatever it may be, in a new way. Love to see Starbucks, and I think this is they're really gonna start the trend for new companies to start doing the same thing. Satoshi left, came back, giving some utility to the art piece that he released before deleting his previous Twitter, End of Satoshi. So there's a pre-mint registration. You can possibly win a Pop Warner artwork called In Life, Death, and Crypto Art. 300 supply. It's going to be free. You just have to own one of these End of Satoshi passes. All right. Shout out to Real Vision. Real Vision is a very popular, I would say, macro and investing website where you can learn from some of the best in the world. They're dropping their own NFT project. They just announced. And they're partnering up with 9 popular projects in their communities in the space. You can see what they are here. MFers, Xcopy, Dimitri, who's an artist, Wrecked Guy, The Memes by 6529, Me Bits, World of Women, Women and Weapons, and Yinkori, which is an artist. So if you own one of these NFTs, you'll be allow listed for the Real Vision NFT drop. What does it get you? Well, it gets you access into, their goal is to become the super community of communities, is what they said. And you'll get access into a Discord where all these communities will come together. You'll get access to Real Vision's products where you get all of their newsletters, their video content, their podcasts with some of the smartest people in macro and investing in the world. So check that out if you're interested. Some really funny news this week. The SEC comes out and says that NFT Top Shot is not a security. It's not saying it is a security, but somebody is suing because they lost a ton of money on their NBA Top Shot NFTs. And when they went to the judge essentially said that because the way that NBA Top Shot tweeted about these digital basketball collectibles, that he's not denying the case. He is going to allow it to go to court because of the way that it was portrayed on the tweet, stating that if you used rocket emojis and chart emojis and money bag emojis, that could potentially be considered a security, which is just absolutely nuts. I mean, if I trade basketball cards with you in real life, am I going to get arrested for selling you security? We know there's a secondary market for these on eBay or whatever. So the fact that this wasn't thrown away, this case wasn't thrown away right away is just bonkers to me. Shout out to Hal Press. In the article as well, it says, this is important to know for the future, not all NFTs offered or sold by any company will constitute a security, and each scheme must be assessed on a case-by-case basis. Very interesting, right? So NFTs will most likely not be considered securities across the board. Some NFTs, if they are failing the Howey test, will be considered securities. We're still trying to figure out how this regulatory framework is going to look. All right. So Blur has pretty much made NFTs altcoins with pictures where nobody cares about the art. They're just trading and flipping them, right? But there are still a lot of art collectors and art connoisseurs in the space that want to appreciate art. They don't want to just trade them and treat them like shit coins. So there are platforms coming out that are being curated and targeted for art appreciators. And Proof is creating one called Artist Profiles. You can browse the artists in their Proof ecosystem that have done drops. You can browse, you can read about the drop, you can learn about the artist. And 6529 is the memes, Seas.io is same week released something similar for his memes project, where you can learn about the artists, know the exact information about the drop, and see everything in a one simple place with a good user experience. Artblocks did the exact same thing. Shout out to Purple Hat, where he says, with all the recent conversation around marketplaces and creator royalties, we're very excited to announce that we've expanded the secondary marketplace functionality at Artblocks to now include native listings, delistings. And the thing is that's special here is that they baked in creator royalties using a protocol called Reservoir, where it allows you to just bake in the royalties on every single transaction on your own marketplace. So because we know royalties are pretty much trending to zero thanks to Blur and a couple other marketplaces, people still want to support artists and they want to pay royalties when they sell. And Artblocks is making it easy for people to do that. So if you know for sure you want to support an artist and you want to pay royalties, you can go to Artblocks and you know that's going to happen. All right, because there's no royalties now, and a lot of projects were being funded this way, a lot of these projects are trending to zero, and we're going to see a lot of consolidation, a lot of merger and acquisitions. So be careful out there. And starting with Metroverse, where they tweeted and said, Meta citizens, after a year and a half of building and many accomplishments to be proud of, Metroverse will be shutting down and ending further development of the game. Thanks to everyone who played the game. Loopify, who shouts out and says, Metroverse, a project that did 23,500 in ETH volume on the secondary market with royalties, that's a good chunk of money, just shut down. Reasons listed basically explain it was a rug. They dropped small, some sort of alpha game, and then they just kind of rugging at this point. So I expect to see much more of this. Decrypt, shout out to them, where they say video game industry legend Trip Hawkins, which was the founder and CEO of EA, which created a lot of the sports video games, has joined an NFT gaming startup. Web3 gaming is going to be so explosive. I think that $1 million bid on the Doogie Dash Golden Key NFT is just the start of it. Professional gamers are going to see how much money is in Web3 gaming. And it's just going to be a massive meta, I think, sometime in the future. But it's going to take time. Building games is a difficult task. Shout out to Liam. Man, we talked about Ryan Carson last week, where his 121 fund bought a shit ton of Bitcoin punks, which a lot of us think was a very bad move. Announced this week on a Twitter space where apparently he was crying. There's a recorded clip of it you can find on Twitter if you want to listen to it. I don't like to kick anybody while they're down. Do I think Ryan Carson did a lot of weird things in the space? Yes, I do, absolutely. But basically, a couple weeks ago, he announced a new Web3 incubator where he partnered with some Web3 influencers and communities called Flux. And he is now shutting that down. And what got him kind of popular was his Daily Dose daily Twitter space, which was really successful. He built a community around it, and he's shutting down that as well and pretty much leaving the space completely. So the news is that Seneca and Zen Academy is merging the Daily Dose show and community with Zen Daily. So he's taking over that completely. All right. We talked about ByteGANs earlier, where somebody bought a 1 of 1 for 33 ETH. I did not know this, but the artist behind this AI generative project is an absolute legend. Pindar van Arman has had an enormous impact on digital art. He's a relentless innovator and tinker. Pindar blurred the lines between science, creativity, and made AI art collectibles. He's the #1 selling AR artist who created $14 million of net value for his early patrons. He's had auctions with Sotheby's, had his works displayed in museums. I mean, this guy, I was not aware that he was dropping this project and how big he was in the AI art space. But keep that in mind and do your research on ByteGANs if that sort of thing interests you. Okay, something that was overlooked this week, but happened, and I thought was pretty interesting. I don't think it's detrimental or anything, but just interesting to see happen with Bored Ape Yacht Club. So, Bored Ape Yacht Club has a project called Bored Ape Kennel Club, which is the dogs, is the companion to the Bored Apes. This used to be their logo just recently, and since the start of the project. There is a company called Easy Drawing Guides where they do step-by-step drawing tutorials for kids and beginners. As you can see, this tutorial with this skull head is identical to the Bored Ape Kennel Club logo. And people and Easy Drawing Guides basically came out and said, hey, listen, you trademarked this logo. It was our creation. You need to change your logo, right? And here was the CEO of Bored Apes, where they say, and they addressed this fairly quickly too, so shout out to them for that, where he says, I saw the claims today about the BAKC logo. This was news to us, and we're still investigating the situation. We've reached out to the freelancer we hired that design for that design and the Easy Drawing Guides. We'll be changing the logo and updating it on our site and marketplace to change it as well. Apparently, they were not aware of this. They hired somebody to create this logo. Apparently, the freelancer was the one who copied it identically. And they went and changed that logo, and now this is what it looks like. Very simple, but they moved quickly on this. So, weird situation, but who knows. Shout out to Webverse, which Webverse is an open-sourced metaverse where I think it's really interesting because they're really trying to do things in a crypto-native way. But they just dropped their AI character studio where you can customize your character, provided an AI personality, and use it across different platforms. Shout out to them. I really do think it's a dope project, great team, and they're doing some interesting things. Shout out to Rug Radio, right? Which they're dropping something called Stubs, which reminds me of PO-ops, but they're taking them to another level. PO-ops are very powerful to build a community. I think people are still underestimating PO-ops, but they're starting to take this to another level, where he says, we wanted to show love to you guys, the people listening to their daily Twitter spaces, and they designed something called Stubs in partnership with a protocol called FairXYZ to change the game on how creators can reward their communities. This is how it works. They do a daily Twitter space show, and so if you listen to it and you own one of their NFTs or a DGen-Z Access Pass, they'll be dropping a password on the show daily, and then you can go and claim your mint your stub that day, and there's only a limited supply, so it's first come first serve, right? So, and then you can take those, and by the end of the week, you can redeem them for weekly stubs. And these stubs will be NFTs, where the art will be created by world-renowned and emerging artists. And I'm sure sometime down the line, they're going to provide utility to these stubs. And these stubs are obviously ways to figure out who their superfans is. And they're gamifying it, and I really do think they're taking POFs to the next level, and that's a really smart move. Shout out to Rug Radio and Farouk, just been killing it. All right, we talked about Proof, which is the owner of Moonbirds, where they made their announcement to cancel their conference. After announcing it, people buying tickets, booking airfare and hotels, a couple weeks later, they canceled it due to lack of demand. So they said here, we'd like to give you an update on Proof of Conference, which is now canceled. As you know, in the world of NFTs, timing is everything, and today it's time for us to recognize that right now it isn't the right time for the Proof of Conference. They said they're going to get back to work with everything else on the roadmap, but this was a huge blow to Moonbirds. They were excited to do this, and a lot of people were already planning for it, so it wasn't a good look for them. See if they could bounce back from that. All right. On One Force, which was a very early project that launched a while back, and they really exploded out of the gate when they came out, and people thought they were going to be a blue chip. They died out, and nothing ever happened. The whole community pretty much died out. But just this week, it was announced that they got bought out by the group, including former Binance executives. And, it was the investment firm was called Old Fashioned Research. The price wasn't disclosed. I'm sure it was a pretty penny, as these NFT projects can sometimes be pretty expensive. But I posted this last week where I said price equals news. Someone always know. Recently, someone always knows. So obviously this run up, this news was leaked because this thing ran up into the news. And the news, so this is really not the time to buy, even if you're in. All right, moving on to Links DAO, which is the most popular golf DAO and community in the Web3 space. Pretty big deal. Congratulations to them, where the DAO had record level voting in the community. And the vote was pretty much this. In our search for our first golf course to purchase, we have identified a promising property in Scotland called Spey Bay Golf Club. This vote is to determine if we should move forward with submitting an offer and working to purchase the golf course. I believe the golf course was being sold for, or they were bidding for $900,000. So collectively, this digital community, where most of these people have never met, are together buying a golf course across the world where they can host community events. I love Web3. This is the type of shit that happens. And as LinksDAO tweeted, the vote is now closed, our largest token turnout ever. 88% of the holders of the LinksDAO NFTs voted. And that means they are bidding on the golf course, and it's already happened. Shout out to LinksDAO. Bored Ape Yacht Club, they announced their Gary Licked the Toad, which is really just a same version of Dookie DAO, but they threw in some toads, and like for a split second, you got to catch the toads. But it's really the same game. But the one new thing is whatever they say here, whatever it is, whatever they are drawn to the power source. Sewer pass holders have the opportunity to earn one of these companions, these guys right here, as a trait when the sewers open up again for the Gary Lick the Toad. So apparently you have the opportunity to get a companion. The CEO Garga of Yuga Labs says it's not first come first serve. You have 1 week to compete. if you have the top 500 score or the top 2,000 total points score at the end of the week, you'd win a trait, and they're going to release a video explaining more in detail. VCon, which is ran by Gary Vaynerchuk, the business influencer, they finally announced their first round of VCon 2023 speakers, and the entertainer, which is Busta Rhymes. I heard from a lot of my Web3 friends, and the Web3 space seems to agree that VCon was the best Web3 conference up until this point, and I really hope I can make it this year. I look forward to hopefully meeting a lot of you if I end up being able to make it. The lineup is incredible. You have CEOs from all kinds of companies, from all the top NFT projects, etc. Binance. All right, we know that Coachella last year made some of their tickets NFTs. They teamed up with FTX to custody those NFTs, and then FTX went bankrupt, and now those Coachella lifetime VIP tickets as NFTs are stuck on the platform. Not a good experience. But now Ultra Music Festival has teamed up with Binance, where they're embracing the technology of NFT ticketing through their platform, which offers some benefits. And those are ease of use and authenticity, better control of the sales process, and exclusive holder benefits. And basically, this is what it is straight from the article. For the first time at Ultra, VIP tickets will come in the form of NFTs, and they're going to be sold exclusively on BNFT, which is Binance's NFT platform. So we pretty much know that all tickets in the future will become tokenized. It's just an easier way to prove who owns what, market to them, and provide them with more benefits and a better experience. They're starting with their VIP tickets, I'm assuming, to see just how it goes. And eventually all tickets will just be NFTs on your phone in your Web3 wallets. Shout out to Sappy Seals, where they held an auction for their first Sappy Seal NFT on Bitcoin Ordinals platform. So this thing went for 1 million pixel tokens, which are the Sappy Seal tokens, which is equivalent to 1 Bitcoin or 15 ETH. That's a pretty hefty price, but it's the first Sappy Seals on the Bitcoin Ordinals or the Bitcoin blockchain in general. So, you know, they had some good bids here. Somebody's bidding 1 ETH for it. This is the actual NFT on OpenSea. It's called the Bitcoin Artifact 0, where they're looking to do more drops like this. Shout out to Sappy Seals. Let's talk about the Pudgy Penguins. These guys have just been killing it ever since they got bought out by Luca. And they just announced a major partnership with Retail Monster. This partnership will put our upcoming Pudgy toy line on the shelves of retailers around the world, while leveraging our IP to enable licensing opportunities with name brands. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. So, if you don't know who Retail Monster is, they're a global company who's worked with some of the largest brands in the world. You can see Disney, Nickelodeon, DreamWorks. This is their website. So this is who Pudgy Penguins partnered with and who is going to be taking their brand global. So shout out to the Pudgy Penguins. All right, the Nouns. This came out of a Nouns prop house where the community decided to vote for this team to create a film premiere of the Nouns. And you can actually go and mint the video as an NFT for a very small price. This is a screenshot of the film. It was very well done, and I think it's just a step of what some of the smart builders in the Nouns community are doing. Okay, update on Jack Butcher's projects, checks, and OPEPINs. Transparency time and some BG and OPEPIN. It began as a free mint. It was open for 60 minutes. Open edition, you know, kind of inspired by some other artists in the space. He had no intention to build on it initially, and quite frankly, he just did it on a whim. But because it blew up, he says the next phase will be completely different. He's going to update. That's for OPEPINs. And for checks, he says, if there's one headwind for the checks meme, the format is way more art than PFP, profile picture. A long way of saying anything we build next will be complementary conceptually, as we think of checks as the meta meme that underlies everything they are building. Of course, the NFTs jumped on this as Jack Butcher moves markets like almost nobody else in the space. All right, let's talk about one of the biggest rugs in NFT history, frenzies. Hi, and this is what they just tweeted from their personal Twitter account. Hi, friends. We wanted to reach out directly to the community with an important update. As the project founders, we have decided that it would be best to put a pause on the frenzies, AI, and all future digital goods for the time being. We had the best intentions and there, but event. Okay. Sorry guys, I have some technical difficulties. Just getting the stuff back on the screen. There we go. Should I start from the top from here, or where was I? This one? Okay. All right, so we're just gonna redo this for the editing. Updates with Jack Butcher and his two projects that are popping off right now, OPEPins and Checks. Starting off with OPEPin, he says, it began as a free mint. It was an open edition, which means as many people could mint within that hour period. He was inspired by some other artists in the space, and he had no intention to build on it initially, and quite frankly, he just did it on a whim. But the next phase will be completely different, and he's going to be updating it here on Twitter. Moving on to Checks, where he says, if there is one headwind for the Checks meme, the format is way more art than PFP. A long way of saying anything we build next will be complementary conceptually, as we think of Checks as the meta meme that underlies everything we are building. And of course, the floors jumped hard on his tweets as Jack Butcher moves markets like nobody else in the NFT space. All right, let's move into one of the biggest rugs in the NFT space. Frenzies. And of course, it's called Frenzies. But again, this is coming straight from their Twitter this week, where they announced, hi friends, we wanted to reach out directly to the community with an important update. As the project founders, we have decided that it would be best to put a pause on Frenzy AI and all future digital goods for the time being. Well, of course, right? After they raised $5 million from their mint, and it remains unclear how the funds were even spent. They had announced in the beginning that they were going to put a lot of that money into a community treasury. They announced that they were going to do a play to earn game. And then they blamed market volatility as a reason for closing up the project. So as you can see here, these are screenshots from their Discord where they said Frenzies is going to be like a Tamagotchi-like game that is play to earn. They were going to do all these things with the community, roadmaps. They were going to share royalties with the community, which never happened. And the craziest part is that when Frenzies first was minting, they had announced that they were going to do a auction starting at 3.33 ETH, which is unheard of, especially at that time. It was an insane high price for any profile picture mint. They got fudded to the ground and said, this is crazy. No, we're not paying this. And they eventually dropped the mint much lower, and they, instead of raising tens of millions, they ended up only raising 5 millions. Thank God, because they rugged anyways. So there were signs from the start on this. You really hate to see it. This is something that Frenzies replied to somebody on Twitter on a direct message. They screenshotted it and posted it. And they said, hi friends, please don't get caught up in the toxic pileup. Frenzies is going nowhere. We are taking a pause to make sure it can become our true vision of a digital companion. Many of the famous companies we were speaking to have taken their focus off of Web3, so we needed to pivot the IP. They love the IP and they don't plan to leave. So that's very interesting. A lot of the Web3 companies they were going to work with left the space. With all the crazy shit happening, can you really blame them? But this is a screenshot of, this is how much ETH was traded on the Frenzy secondary market. And this was their royalty, 7.5% of this. So it was a good amount of money on top of the 5 million that they raised. And they are back on Twitter and announced, okay, we're back. We're not going to rug. I mean, really, they can go to jail for this. We've seen NFT projects get sued and for a lot of money for doing this. Promising, doing nothing, and then leaving and just taking people's money. That's illegal. You can't do that. You can't say, I'm going to go build this building in downtown, give me $5 million, and then you don't build the building, right? That's fraud. So I'm sure they realized that, and they came back, and they're going to try to start to work something out here. But the crazy thing about Frenzies is that it's a known brand way before Web3. These guys have been around for years, I believe 20 years exact. So they partnered up with Christie's, which is, huge art auction house. They had partnered with some huge names. They sold of 101 for $425,000. Like this did not look like a rug initially. And as you can see, this is coming straight from their website. Friends with You, which is the art project that has been around for 20 years, these guys created an animated series on Netflix. They participated in the Macy's Day Parade in 2018. They have an iconic little cloud character. Like, these guys have been around. They've been to museums. They've been all over the world. So the fact that they rugged like this bad was just, nobody saw that coming. A lot of people got hit hard on this project, spent a lot of money that went to absolutely zero. So really don't like to see it, but I really do think we're going to be seeing more of this as royalties are going to go to zero and teams are not going to have money. And a lot of them, they don't have any revenue. All right, let's jump into some crypto news. Biggest news being Coinbase, the largest crypto exchange in America, has announced that they're deploying their own layer 2 on Ethereum. And what they say is, and it's called Base. Base is an Ethereum layer 2 that offers a secure, low-cost, developer-friendly way for anyone, anywhere to build decentralized applications on top of. And our goal with Base is to make on-chain the next online and onboard 1 billion users into the crypto economy. Okay, one important thing to note about this announcement is that a lot of L2s, I would say, like Optimism and others, instead of using Ethereum to pay for gas on the network, they're utilizing their own tokens. So Optimism has the Optimism token, which you have to use. Arbitrum is rumored to be doing an airdrop soon, those are the two top L2 ecosystems on Ethereum. But Coinbase is saying, we do not plan to issue a new network token for Base, and we will use Ethereum as a native gas token. So that's good to know. Jesse, which is a developer at Coinbase, said another way, building on Base is a key component of their secret master plan. We believe Base will unlock the next generation of decentralized applications from Coinbase and developers everywhere that will bring 1 billion users into the global crypto economy. Shout out to Fubar again. Appreciate his take on this one, where he says, incredibly bullish for decentralized crypto. The exchange as a roll-up thesis playing out before our eyes will accrue significant cultural and economic value to Ethereum. So I think his point is that Coinbase already has a massive user base of millions of crypto users via their exchange, right? A lot of us have bought crypto via Coinbase. So you already have an account with them. So if now they become the place where you visit all the decentralized applications via their exchange, you can easily go from their exchange to their L2 base seamlessly and then transact on Ethereum in a much cheaper, much faster, more secure, in a still secure way. I think they're positioning themselves very well here. This could be really good. And again, right now, we need a cheaper, faster alternative to mass adopt the world, and L2s are needed. And I think Base could potentially be a big player there. And also, they dropped an NFT to commemorate the moment. And yeah, you can go ahead and mint that. It ended at midnight on Sunday. I did grab one close to free. All right, some more frustrating news in the crypto world, where a couple of blockchains are running into some problems here. Polygon, which is a huge side chain to Ethereum. Well, shout out to Hayden, which is the CEO of Uniswap, one of the biggest protocols on Ethereum, where he says Polygon needs to make moves publicly to solve its reorganization problem. 157 block reorganizations, 5 minutes of history yesterday, and 120 in December is bad and can break bridges, sexes, etc. Maybe a consensus algo change or a social. If you don't understand what this means, neither do I. I just understand that there's problems with the Polygon blockchain right now that is causing issues, that can potentially cause issues in other ecosystems. And not only Polygon, Solana, which has been known to be shut off at times, happened again this week. Breaking by CoinDesk, where it says the Solana network's transaction throughput is down bad after they forked the chain. Validators and engineers are investigating what is going wrong. So I took a screenshot of the article here where it says, within hours of a supermajority of validators had switched back to the old software prior to the fork as an attempt to restore Solana's operations. But it did little to solve the still unknown problem that is weighing down on the performance. The effort then turned to be a more drastic solution, restarting the chain to the point immediately prior to the fork. So it's not good. I mean, if you have your money in DeFi, if you're making a trade, if you have a loan, whatever it may be, and Solana just shuts off, it's just not good for you. Protocols, it messes with everybody that it's time sensitive. And a lot of these protocols are still very, very new, and building a blockchain is not easy. So that's just kind of where we're at in the stages of crypto. But to some better news in the Solana ecosystem. Apparently, Solana is decentralizing. And shout out to Solana Compass, where they run the data. They have now over 3,200 full nodes spread across 400 different data centers in about 200 different cities, which a Nakamoto coefficient of 31, which is just kind of it's kind of your ranking of decentralization. And so apparently, Solana is progressively decentralizing. I know a lot of people like to say Solana is a centralized chain. It's run by just a small group of people, and that is relatively true. But it's also not 100% true to just say that things are not getting better. They're now working towards decentralization. Shout out to Solana, and shout out to Matty Tay, where he says there's a Solana hackathon happening soon called Grizzlython. And already 6,000 different developers and builders all over the world have signed up, which is great news for the Solana ecosystem. As you can see here, they got responses from over 6,000 developers in all these different countries. So that's some good news for Solana. Some other bad news in the crypto space. So one of the largest hacks in crypto history last year, from the wormhole bridge, was about $300 million that the hackers were able to get away with. But just this week, Jump Crypto, who financed Wormhole for that $300 million hack, was able to recover $140 million worth of that hack. And everybody was asking themselves, well, how were they able to do that? Okay, we ended up finding out. Shout out to Tony, where he says, okay, so Oasis used administration privileges to transfer ownership of the Wormhole hacker's vault to Jump Crypto. Jump then paid off the debt that hacker owed and took control of hers collateral. Glad that hackers got pawned, but troubling that Oasis even had the power to do this. As you can see on the website, this is what it states. Can Oasis access the funds in my account or my wallet? And they state no. With DAI, which is their semi-decentralized stablecoin, you and only you have access and control over your DAI. DAI uses blockchain technology to ensure the highest level of trust and transparency. And because of the way the blockchain technology works, you ultimately get to decide just how secure you want it to be. This does mean you own your own security ultimately, so it's very important you keep access to your DAI and Oasis account secure. So that's what it states on the website. Apparently, that's not true if there is a court order. Shout out to Chris, where he says, well, it was only a matter of time. What happens first? A court orders DeFi project to use its multi-sig, which is a wallet that requires several signatures to execute a transaction, to steal money back from the hacker. DeFi project says, okay, and uses that multi-sig to exploit its own code. DeFi users are like, oh crap, what? Total joke. This was supposed to be decentralized. Apparently it's not, and all it takes is a court order. You really don't love to see it, as we like to think of DeFi as centralized. And not all DeFi, I'm sure, has this capability. Some are more decentralized, but we need to find workarounds. If the government ends up trying to attack crypto, that could not be good if they're structured this way. Moving on, shout out to It's Bermuda, where he shared with us that the collab land airdrop and snapshot occurred. The token gating tool used by 43,000 different DAO and NFT communities are distributing their new governance token to millions of eligible users. I did hear it wasn't much, but you can't complain with free money. All right, we know it's hard time in crypto. There's a lot of people failing in the NFT project space and in the crypto fund space. And one of those is Galios Capital, which was an OTC trading and algorithmic market making company in crypto, announced that they are shutting their doors. I appreciate the outpouring of support today when the FT article came out. Thank you for all the kind words. Yes, it is true that our flagship fund is shutting down. The reason is that they had half of their assets on FTX. FTX collapsed, and they are having to shut the doors. So, I believe most of that is behind us, but it's still dark times. Okay. And for our last piece of big news here in the crypto space, shout out to Futureverse, where they say Immersive, a Futureverse company, has partnered with payments giant MasterCard to enable humans to transact directly from their Web3 wallet, both in real life and in the metaverse, wherever MasterCard is accepted. So MasterCard is going to allow crypto payments in your crypto Web3 wallet via USDC, which is a dollar-backed stablecoin, essentially a digital dollar. This is pretty big. So anywhere that MasterCard is accepted, you can pay for something using your crypto card that will be settled in USDC, the dollar's stablecoin. So again, these are the kinds of announcements that allow crypto to be used worldwide, and that is going to be really important moving forward. So moving on to music NFT news, as I believe music NFTs don't get enough coverage. I love music, so let's jump on in. Shout out to Spotty Wi-Fi, who's performed at several of our Web3 Central Florida events out of Miami. He's really laid out the blueprint for anybody who wants to become a musician in the NFT space, where he just dropped a new song and a new music video with Snoop Dogg. The song is called King's Alpha. The entire video was shot at Snoop Dogg's compound in Los Angeles. And as you can see here, the video was filmed primarily in the compound. Shout out to Spotty on the drop, always leading the way. And Snoop Dogg says he learned a lot from Spotty in how to enter the music NFT space. And as we know, Snoop Dogg owns NFT music record label. And then one last one on music NFTs. Shout out to Sammy, who's one of the more talented and popular NFT music artists, where he dropped an open edition of his popular song called Meta Girl. So, as you can see, it went well for him. And he ended up selling, I believe it was 1,600 mints in 1 hour. And It's closed now. He was doing some giveaways for the people who were minting, rewarding those early supporters. Shout out to him for just continuing to drop and being in the community every day. And this is all on sound.xyz, which is a popular NFT music platform. All right, we're coming towards the end. If you missed last week's episode, this is what we cover. You can go on YouTube and check it out. We cover everything that happened in the last week. It's a lot to keep up with, but we love doing it, and we hope that it's helpful for you. That's all we got for you. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Web3 Weekly Alpha. This is powered by Web3 Central Florida, also powered by InnerSpace Orlando here in the studio. Like, subscribe on the YouTube channel. We really appreciate any feedback. Let us know the kind of content that you want to see. Follow us on Twitter, where we are always posting alpha. You can follow me at Serpunk ETH, Web3 CFL, all on the screen here. So thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you next week for another episode of Web3 Weekly Alpha. Peace.
Blessed by Gandhi, blah, blah, blah.
Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes. I'm telling you, I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Viz.